my friends, I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table. And hey, we're looking at Fred Dodge, Planetary Ranger. He's also a member of the Commerce and Labor Ministry. So we are looking at Cycle 15. We had a suspected smuggler warship, i.e. a sloop, arrives at the Fairwind port, and that they were loading some cargo. They also loaded a cargo that were brought to them by some local toughs that Fred's been keeping an eye on, and they loaded 6 Tech 2 Agranites. So if you think of a agricultural mech, then that's basically a mechanized agricultural machine, and that's exactly what these things are. And so from a game perspective, these things have plugged into my agri-concern, for example, would increase the food production, the output of that agri-concern by a small margin, which is kind of a desirable plug-and-play kind of item. And so the question then would be is, if we find where did they come from? Did my local Platinum, who controls and operates the agri-concern, have some mechs come up missing? Because if he did, I didn't know he had them, because obviously they weren't plugged into the agri-concern and being used, so they're not going to affect existing production. So that also potentially means that they stole these things from somebody, whether it's a local citizen or one of my platinums or a passing merchant. I don't know, and that's something that would have to be potentially discovered through an interrogation if I want to go down that route. So we know that that was what went down in Cycle 15. So in Cycle 16, the current cycle, Fred Dodge is going to follow the local toughs, and he's also reported what he's seen at the end of Cycle 15. So this opens the window for me to set up and use yet another house organization, this time Customs, and potentially to approach the captain of this supposed pirate vessel and force them to allow an inspection. And we inspect, and if we can determine that there's no legal proof of ownership on those agrimechs, and the house can confiscate them as stolen goods and then appropriate them as we need them, or we choose to use them. So in this case, it also could mean that the supposed pirate captain might not want to surrender them or let Customs on board his vessel. And then, of course, at that point, it's a sloop, and we have to decide if I have enough forces to take on a grounded warship, or if how much casualty potentially I could take if I were to do so, keeping in mind that I've got a very small militia and military, and very poorly equipped one at that. I mean, it was just only in the last couple cycles I was able to start producing automatic rifles, which are still grossly under tech when you look at lasers and plasma and lasers and other technology that's available. So I mean, just saying, it may not be to my advantage or I may just not be able to militarily force that ship captain to do it what we want, or I could get dumb luck and try to do a rabbit out of my butt kind of scenario, which would be a little bit more elaborate and take a little bit of legwork to get it set up to see if it plays out, and try to take the ship by force, capture it. Then I would then be able to confiscate it as a suspected pirate vessel. I could, as the House Lord, I can declare it, forfeit, imprison, or execute the crew, and put my own crew on board the ship and expand my navy. So first things first, Fred Dodge is going to follow the local toughs. Is their leader present? Was their leader present? So what we want is just a straight yes or no or maybe roll. And so that's just what I'm going to look for, is my little yes, no, or maybe chart. And right down here at the bottom. And we shall also known as the mechanical roll chart. Yes, no, maybe chart. So 8, or my yellow is always my 10, so that is 86. 86 is a solid yes. So we now have a solid yes. which gives a plus 20% modifier for anything Fred might do following up immediately on this, which is what we want to do. So we want, is he present? So this means Fred can now identify thug leader, which is important because at some point we're going to have a conversation with this thug leader. I might even have, if it impresses me enough, I might even have the House Lord have a direct conversation with this punk, because there's also always opportunities here that can potentially be exploited. I mean, it's just a matter of how we want to proceed with it. So now Fred can identify the thug. Thug leader present is, what? We're going to just find out what is what I keep calling it him. Calling he a him, and it may not. It might be a her. It could also be a shim. Yeah, that's in this game. This game has that possibility because of all the possible genetic and alien and other things that can go along. So we also go by genome. So right here, gender says when a flume's gender might not be simple as male or female, alien physiology, advanced medical sciences, and gene splicing is only the beginning. Aside from traditional roles, a third mixed gender, she or he, has long been an accepted human gender in settled space. Unlike ancient times, the medical practitioners called genetic aberrations, medical advances have embraced the gynecological variety that nature has created and has striven to improve the natural process. Genetically enhanced genders based upon the male, female, i.e. she, or alien and or unknown, are thingies who before birth were tweaked in order to improve their genetic DNA, or after birth to change existing DNA into something more suited to the person. Blah blah blah. So we go into some various modifications that can be also added, and some negatives and positives to this. Through this process, you can gain superior intelligence, heightened reflexes, heightened physique, a diminished physique, enhanced charisma, radical modifications that in giving the genome the ability to breathe underwater or in toxic or non-breathable atmospheres, giving them pigmentation, alters their skin to their environments, or additional animal alien DNA, for etc., etc., etc. The whole point is that the genetic, after 6,000-7,000 years in the future of medical advancements, this kind of and the moral changes that come with time, at some point humanity will accept that psychologically and mentally speaking, we're a far more diverse a group of individual animals than we think we are, and sometimes that we constantly try to fight against what is actually nature's plan. So one of my on a tangent, just off on a hairy tangent for just a second, right? So hey, maybe we should do this one. I don't go down the rabbit hole. Or hey, I know, here's this. So the real possibility that because of the extreme population levels on Earth, nature has decided that it needs to alter the balance in some way as a defense mechanism to protect itself. And it's only human arrogance that suggests that we are not part of nature, i.e. that we're not susceptible to things like environmental change or geological change, which is bullshit. That's just pure bullshit. We are as much a member of the existence of what life is on this planet, period, as anything else in it. So we are all intimately connected, regardless of how much we like to distance ourselves, psychologically speaking, and in some cases physically speaking. But that said, life goes on, life is everywhere, and it goes on in all kinds of forms and in ways we can not even begin to imagine. And in our worst nightmares and in our most beautiful dreams, we cannot imagine. So the idea that perhaps because of the culture or the environment, our population levels becoming critical. Something's changed in the psyche of people. More and more people are having fewer and fewer kids. Part of that's economical, but also some of it's got to do with society, and the third part of it's got something to do with just being altering consciousness. Something's changing in our genetic makeup, or our genetic drive to alter our species, or to slow it down, or to at least try to bring it into balance with what the planet is being to able to sustain at a decent level. So we have an increased number of people who have sexual preferences. We also have an equal number of people who just choosing to abstain. They're just tired of the race and the manipulation and the this mad dash that we seem to be hardwired to do, to develop relationships and become married and have kids. Well, far more people today are choosing not to do either one. That's having its toll right now. We can see that in the people crying about it, especially in big countries like China, where they're going on about all the diminished. Japan's a dying culture because there's just not enough young people to make up for the losses of the elderly people as they pass on, and that in part is some sort of genetic thing that we have yet to come to terms with or understand, that's manipulating humanity for the benefit of humanity and for the environment, period. That's my personal opinion on all that crap. So going back down the rabbit hole, we had, like I said, the mechanics for this are pretty deep and I put a lot of time and effort and thought into this bullshit because I wanted it to be just a hair different. So that said, we also have genomes. Now, generally speaking, I'm not randomly rolling, which I could, but I'm just fine with having a specific, humanity being my main race of people at the moment, because it's a genetic. It's the neutral ground for races, for advantages and disadvantages, and I'm not ready quite yet to have those plugged in and show just how wildly variety your societies and your settlements, your colonies can become or can be. So in this case, we're going to go through this, and it says player's notes: such genetic enhancements must be pre-planned before a thing is birthed. Process requires that the medical. So if you go to Star Trek, for example, in Star Trek, the Wrath of Khan, Julian Brashear from DS9. These are genetically manipulated human beings who were, in case of Khan, they wanted to make him stronger, faster, smarter, and more clever, and unfortunately it also included enhanced his arrogance and his narcissism and his belief that he's almost a godlike figure, and much to the detriment of everybody who run into him. Where in Julian Brashear, we have this manipulation that increases his intelligence level, makes him extremely intelligent, very, very good physician, but it's also skirting the laws of the Federation when it comes to genetic manipulation, because there's legitimate worries that you can take that extremely too far. My premise for when I created the game is, what if we don't have those restraints? What if there is no, Starfleet General Order Number 1? There's no, what would humanity do when humanity does this and encounters this? Well, based on human history, that's how I come up with my shit. So in this case, it's just what it's saying. So in a random generated chart, we're just go ahead and randomly roll for fun, and I have a 68. So 68 makes this a female. So 51 to 94 is female, and there's 41 to 45 is male, and from 46 to 47 is she-male, or however you want to relate it. 95 to 100 is genetically altered, caveat number 1. 48 to 50 is alien or other unknown, caveat number 2. So number 1, re-roll in the gender chart to determine the original gender before adaptations, and re-roll to see what the gender was changed into. So synthetically speaking, genetically altered meant it could then have been a female turned into a male, or a male turned into a she-male, or a actually could be turned into a damn alien. So it's genetically engineering possible to have most human beings be physically altered to resemble many other bipedal alien species. Just they don't necessarily get the bonuses or the benefits that the native, the actual race of that alien would get for being in the alien. So we now know our gender of our leader is a female. All right. So Fred can now identify the leader. The leader is a female. Next one be is the leader openly armed. Good to know if she's packing some weapons. And I get an additional 20%, but I don't use that. I'm choosing not to use that 20% because I'm just looking for yes, no answers, and I'm not actually trying to negotiate with this individual for something. So once again, we're going to go back to our yes, no, yes or no, or maybe chart, wherever the hell I put it. Hey, over there. Where you at? Where you at? Come on. There we go. For the longest time, what I had was I had a couple of these. I just made copies. I cut them out, and I had them taped on. I had one where I had a folder, and I had it just taped on the folder. So I just flip the quarter back. Flip the cover back. There it is. There it is. There it is. Boom. There it is. Boom. There it is. It's kind of the how do you make your life a little simpler kind of shit. Every little bit adds up. So is the person armed? And we have an 11. 11 is no, so not openly no, so not openly armed. That would be a negative 15 if we were negotiating something. Does she have, I don't know, let's call it protector? Because sometimes you'll notice with people, whether they're good people or bad people in many situations, they'll have a bodyguard nearby of some sort. Man, that sun's really starting to come in over here, isn't it? Okay. It was gloomy out there a little earlier. Now the sun's really going. I'll ratchet that heat up, or humidity up. It's cool outside. It is what it is. So. Alright, does she have a protector? We're still in that yes, no, or maybe shit. 7. Oof. Hard no. Alright. Hard no, where you at? Negative 30. Okay, so what it basically now means, I have to do some basic stats. Now, we're going to, let's see, if I got that on here or not. Genome, age, skills. Okay, so we're just going to keep right on down this chart here. We're going to get some information on our would-be pirate leader, thug leader. We know it's female. And then we can estimate an age, so we will roll an age here. 77. Oh yeah, 126 years old. All right. 126 to 150. Now that's another thing that's been interesting about the medical care of core people who come from the Imperium core. So everybody that came on this colony came from a core world, and that meant they've had all of their genetic shots and their immunity shots and a bunch of other material. They've all access to extremely top-notch health care through the Imperium up until the point they decide to set out onto the frontier, which in vernacular terms, and humanity is able to live many centuries. There are some stories of characters or NPCs in this game actually exceeding 1,000 years old through cybernetics and bioorganic transplants. So eventually your physical body wears out, despite all of the genetic and micro robotic techniques and it's sciences or medical equipment that they have to extend the human life, to revitalize your cells, etc., etc. There's still a half-life. At some point, it's just like recycling paper. You can only recycle paper so many times before the actual paper fibers break down to a point where they refuse to hold together. I know that from a company I used to work for that used a lot of recycled paper, so it was important to know this in the process. And then you add that to the trials and tribulations of living a life. Accidents still happen. You could technically have an immortal race who's not going to ever get sick, not going to die of old age because of physical deformities, but they still get hit by a bus and killed, because they got hit by a bus. Just saying, or somebody shot them in the head or whatever. So in this case, we know that roughly her age and ranking. So in her case, because we're going to follow the formula, modifiers, ship captain, nope, high quality, nope, diamond quality, imperial quality, no, they get no modifiers there. And apply your noble status modifier to any role in this chart, because we do not want this thug leader to be grossly more experienced than Fred is. So let's hope that's not going to work that way. So we roll this and we minus 50, which will reduce this considerably. 99, 49. So reduce 99 to 49. 49 is tried, which Fred's is right where we wanted to be anyway. So that's kind of what I was going for in the first place. Tried, which tried means from ranking perspective is a potential for a +6 depending on what we're doing. Yeah, +6 to +10. So if they start out tried and it's 101 and you go up to 200 and then you roll over to from tried to green, and it's kind of like experience points, but at that point for every 10 or every 20 points you go up, you gain a plus to your modifier. So in this case, it's basically a number divided. So you start out with a +1 and then work your way up. So at this point, we got a +6% to any kind of tribute rolls that we might need to make, or use this character to need to defend against stuff my characters were going to do. So that gives us the modifier. We don't know what the standard of living is for this individual, although I would put it at the lower end of my colony rating. Now we go to skills. The help of skilled instructors, blah blah blah. So the chances of number of having skills known. So in this case, we are tried and we have a -15 to our roll, and so we're looking to get a yes, no, or maybe roll with a -15. So I rolled 59 minus 15 is 44. So 44 on the yes, no, it would be a hard maybe. +5. So they one skill maybe. You know what? I'm just going to say that they're training in a skill, and perhaps have not completed that training. So we're going to go back here to the next page, and it gives us a list of possible skills for this person to have been trained in. And sometimes you get some skills and you go, what the hell has this skill got anything to do with this character persona? Well, perhaps this person who's now a thug leader started out as, I don't know, a chiropractor and just couldn't deal with the job, or had some other issues that got them booted out of their job or whatever. So 83 is a combat pilot or driver. Huh. That's interesting. Right? That's interesting. Yes, it is. Alright, so anything else? We can skills, and then we'll go back down and say multiple skills, standard of living. So we can roll and we can choose, because this might help. Sometimes it's the puzzle pieces to put together when you look at the final results and you go, how does this translate into a character or a non-player character? So in this case, we're going to say standard of living, how one lives, dresses, and the appearance of wealth have its effects on how others interact with the thingy. During negotiations, plays out as modifiers meant to show one's status. Ministers whose status is high quality is always going to be less influential than a megacrat, but still grants him status and advantages over those lesser standards of living. Certain houses, house-only builds such as rats increase standards, blah blah. So in this case, NBC modifiers. House Lord status modifier varies. Ship captain or military officer gets a plus 30. So no. So this is not a House Lord. This is not a ship captain or a military officer. This is not a guild rep, platinum, or technocrat. So she gets no modifiers for this. And we just roll straight up and see what comes out of it. And damn it, let me re-roll because I rolled that dice and then it flipped it over. Alright, so 27. 27 is moderate quality. Standard of living, or SOL, moderate. And moderate gets a -5 on negotiations and a -25 for searches. And that was something that when I put searches down there, I didn't think it all the way through, because searches, there's two types of searches. There's observation, where you're physically, your eyeballs or a device you're using is searching for something. I'm looking for somebody hiding in the bushes. I'm looking for my wallet that I dropped using, down the street from, using my eyes or using a pair of binoculars. So that's one way of searching for something. The other would be the proverbial search. So I'm going to do an internet search. I'm going to search the files and the records. I'm going to do a body search. I'm going to check people and ask questions to try to get information that I need to have answers for. Two different kinds of searches, which should be defined. So this is the second half that the search modifier applies to, because there's a little bit of confusion there, and it's not something I've had time or really had a need to work out yet. So a random roll chart for tech specialist, we've established she's not a tech specialist. Wetware. Like skills and specialities, the higher ranked, the wealthier a floob is, the more likely they have picked up a cybernetic or bio implant. To determine if the NPC has wetware, roll a D100 and the following modifiers. Right. So I have my House Lord status modifier, which gives me a -50, and the chance modifier from the following chart. So a tried or Tech 1 individual has a -30% chance. So this gives me, with the modifier of 80, I have almost no chance of getting an implant. So, yeah, and then apparently I didn't finish this chart because it should have numbers attached to it, and it don't. Right? So, 63 minus 80 would give me a 1, because it can never get lower than 1, and 1 would be a no, a resounding no. So there's no wetware, which we really don't want her to have a cybernetic wetware or something, because Fred would not want that disadvantage. No cyber or bioorganic implants. This brings us to the gear tech level. So we already know, we've established that her standard living is moderate. So the moderate modifier is going to be a -30 when it comes to the level of technology that she has access to. So we're going to also include the House Lord modifier once again. So between the two, we're now looking at a negative 80%, just like it was when we was trying to determine wet wire, because what we're trying to avoid is having this character be armed with Tech 5 phaser rifles or something. So 42 out of 80, we're back to 1, so we have a Tech 0 modifier right now. So they really have no resources. Equals 0 right now. So they don't even have, she doesn't even have an access to, if she has a weapon, it's going to be a literal Tech 0. So it could be a Tech 0 pistol. It's more likely to be a knife or something like that, along that nature. And I think we've tried to establish that as a thug group, there's probably only maybe 10 total. There's not very many of them, and I'd have to go back and look through my notes, but I think I rolled that stuff up. So now we know this individual, and the only thing left would be a title or profession, and in this case, a random professions chart, so it doesn't qualify for a role on that. So now I have my my leader's data. You know, the only thing I don't have is a name, so at some point I will have to just arbitrarily give this person a name and go from there. And let's see, so anything else I want to do with cycle? All right, let's go and Fred follows her. Is he spotted? Now that we know that her base has a +6, we can look at our charts and go, right, put those over there. So we're going to see now that investigation, NPC interaction, we would be, an observation would be a MAT, or a mental attribute response chart, and we'll see if she can, is he spotted? Okay, so Fred is also experienced. I mean, we know he's experienced. I just gotta find his butt. Ministry, intelligence, on. There we go. Let's see. All right, where you at, Fred? All right, so Fred Dodge, and this interaction, every time Fred does these things, he gains extra points. So generally speaking, every cycle, an agent or a military unit or whatever gets 1 point of growth based off of experience. So obviously they're in the field, they're doing stuff, they're doing their training and things like this. So given enough time, they will get promoted and they will go up in their skill abilities. They will go up in ranking over time and improve. Now, whether they can keep it or maintain it, there's events and stuff that take account down the road. In this case, we know that in addition to that 1 point every turn, you get an additional point for interacting. So having this Fred doing what he's doing now is actively doing something that's going to gain him an extra point, so it would bring his points up. It takes a while. I mean, last time he was last updated on cycle 12, so that's 4 cycles ago, and every cycle Fred has been engaged in something, so that is 4 cycles plus 4 points for engaging in stuff, so he gets 8 points. That would bring him up to 175, and he needs 201 to become green. So you can see he's progressing slowly and getting better. In this case, his modifier for stealth, for being quiet and moving around, is 0. So he gets no modifier for stealth. He does get a modifier for his regular operation from his experience, which is 5, 6, 7. So he gets a +7, and so that would give her a -7 to roll against, and she has a 6 of her own, so she has a -1 on that. Can she or can he six, or can she spotty? So we'll do her spot roll, and 3, yeah, no. So 0, 0, 1 is high, flat out no. So he follows. He managed to follow her, and does she go to the safe house? And I use that term safe house probably inappropriate. It'd be their hideout or their hangout or whatever place for their digs. You know, if they're it being a low group, a low punky group that they are, the odds are real good that they're squatting right at the same place. So we're going to say, does she go to the safe house? And this is just a straight yes, no, or maybe chart. Roll, so 24 with no modifiers is a soft maybe. And that soft maybe gave me a, I think it was a -2. -2%. Is it in town? So we got that -2. So 26 minus 2 is 24. Jeez, we're in that same shit. Say -2. So now this compound. So now I'm getting a -4% because I'm in the same progression here. This is all connected. So does she go to the safe house? Soft maybe. Is it in town? Soft maybe. So we're trying to narrow this down on outskirt, which is with a -4. So 57 minus 4, so 53. 53 is a hesitant yes, no modifier. So now we get no modifier. So technically we still have a -4. We're just not adding or subtracting anything to that -4 at this point. So she's gone to the safe house that's on the edge of town. So we kind of narrow all that down, and then we come back to, the next line, and that's which would be a new line of questioning, even though it's in the same event. Are more thugs present? Which means I don't carry that that -4 does not carry over. This is a new line of questioning. So 36 maybe. So there may be some people there, but there's no way. He doesn't see them, but it's not to say that they're not there. So okay, that's good enough for for Fred and for cycle 16, I think. The next cycle, what I want to do is I'm going to have Fred, by that time Chastity will be on the scene and Fred will probably have gone to the dojo, but I'm going to have Chastity raid potentially. Well, I'm going to give some thought to this, because I think maybe what I want to do is to have Chastity make contact with this thug leader, so I can establish this thug leader's name and maybe a little more about the personality, and figure out whether or not the house can utilize these individuals in some clever manner, and save ourselves some some problems. Sometimes having elements of your underworld working for your house lord, or at least being on the same page as your house lord, is a good thing. It can actually work to your advantage much more often than not. We learned that through Shannon's campaign with his House Flay Tabor and all the aviaries that his people were and are. So anyway, till next time, I'm Rick. Little Missy over here in the corner is actually sleeping. Is you sleeping? Oh, you're just sitting there being quiet. Yes. She doesn't really like being in there, but she's also being behaved, which is always nice. Anyway, till next time.